It has been good to me this time around. Things were bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact, and I can find no rest. This is love, yeah, love. Never known true love before. Seen so many counterfeits that left me on the floor. This is love, yeah, love. All will come to those who wait. Time it cannot know the bounds, and era don't dictate.
Well, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm Xander Gibb, and coming up on today's show, we will be breaking down some of this week's hotter topics with the fabulous Tony Lusacco, a phone-in on the subject of the death penalty, and in part two, comedian Sarah Boyles will be dropping by. Tyhe's not with us today. He's probably at a party with lots of puffs, I expect. More to come in a mere moment. So you can interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the show page. You can call us on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Or on Twitter, you can tweet us. My Twitter handle is @XanderGibb, XanderGibb, capital X, capital G. Don't forget that all-important @ symbol. And Tony's Twitter handle is @FullStory2014, FullStory2014. Not that he checks his Twitter very often, hint, hint. And Sarah, her Twitter handle is @Boyles_S. That's BOYLES _ and the letter S. And again, don't forget that all-important @ symbol. Tweet me if you are too shy, and I will make your point for you. So come join us in the chat. If it's not letting you join in, it's because you have to join with either Facebook or Twitter. And if you do that, it's very simple, and you'll be able to join in with the conversation. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming today broadcaster, libertarian, and free thinker, the one, the only Mr. Tony Lusacco. Welcome back to the show, Tony. How's it going?
Great, Xander. How are you?
I'm good. I'm cold, though. Is it cold on the down in Florida, or is the sun shining and you're going to make us all feel very jealous?
It is pouring right now.
Is
it is pouring rain where you can't see out the door.
I feel better now. I really do. When I woke up this morning, it was like under 50 degrees, and I was like, I thought this was supposed to be the beginning of summertime, not like, some residue of the winter, but, what you're going to do about it. Anything interesting happened to you this week that you want to share with the Xandermonium audience?
Anything interesting? You mean the news events, or just interesting in my life?
Just interesting in general.
Just interesting in general. Actually, yeah, there was. I was just talking to Kiko about this, actually. I had to sit through and listen to one of my clients' family members just bash on how evil homosexuality is, and they didn't really know who they were talking to on the other end of the phone. But that was just one of those tough things with the job, I can't interject or give my personal opinions or say anything, But
absolutely,
basically the gentleman was blaming homosexuality for all the evils of the world, including his daughter's instability and everything, and I just had to sit there and be like,
Isn't it to blame for global warming, too, I'm told? No, that's gay marriage, isn't it? Not homosexuality that's to blame for global warming. But watch this space on this one. I thought it was interesting how, America's first conservative Christian family, the Duggars, were kind of made out to be hypocrites in the news this week. What did you think to that? Did you feel for them? Did you kind of think they kind of got what they deserved eventually, or what did you think about that?
Well, I think it really depends on how you look at it, honestly. As you know, the Twitter handle and everything, the full story. There's two sides to this. And the first is
right.
I do understand where Mike Huckabee is coming from with that, saying, come on, this was when the guy was a kid. It was years ago. There's such a thing as forgiveness. Why are you dragging
right.
this out now? And I completely agree with Mike Huckabee on that. However, the Duggars, if I recall correctly, have made some very anti-gay and very conservative Christian hateful comments. So, and
right.
I'm not too familiar with him personally, but I think that he's a member of the Family Research Council or whatever, which they champion great Christian values. So, when
right.
you're judging others, so what's that old saying? People who live in glass houses, or have lived, more appropriately in this case, people who have lived in a glass house should not choose to break down people who are living in glass houses now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally
Without
agree.
first disclosing their past.
Absolutely. And I think the saddest thing for me, this is the thing, not one of us has the right to judge anybody else, because we've all had a glittery past. I know I have. I know there's things that people could say about me, or bring up or dredge up, but the adage "I'm an old sinner saved by grace" is kind of totally true, and I think that what this highlights for me is it's imperative that none of us kind of judge other people, because there's always something someone can say about us. And I know the trans community were particularly concerned about comments made saying that the trans people were kind of like pedophiles, and it was kind of, a lot of it was a front for pedophilia, and then this kind of comes out. I think really the lesson for all of us in this is don't judge, because if you do judge others, someone's going to come and judge you, They're going to come and find things about you.
It is very biblical, and once again, I don't really know. I'm not familiar with him himself. I'm familiar with the show, but I haven't looked into any of his statements. I
right.
hope that he hasn't made any of those really judgmental Christian evangelical type statements, because if he has, then it is totally fair. Because
absolutely,
once again, Jesus says, with whatever measure you use, it'll come back at you. Judge not, lest you be judged.
Yes, and I think the other side of this, and I'd like to challenge Mike Huckabee, because I have a lot of respect for Mike Huckabee, but what I don't have a lot of respect for is some of his commentary about the LGBTQ community. And I think that if he can say these statements about, basically he was saying that even pedophilia is forgivable, because the Christian ideology is that Jesus died for all of our sins, and if you consider something to be a sin, then surely Jesus died for that too. So you can't pick and choose, Mike, what you feel is forgivable and what isn't, because Jesus loved everybody, even those that persecuted him. He loved them, and he died for them too. So you just next time, because I know Mike Huckabee listens to this show, of course. Next time you want to judge people, Mike, you remember your statements of this weekend that about forgiveness, and practice a little bit of that yourself. So, moving swiftly to a totally different subject, Tony. This week saw the very last episode of Letterman, and less than 24 hours after the Late Show set, pieces were in dumpsters. Moving trucks arrived at 53rd Street on Thursday, making room for Stephen Colbert's takeover. Now, Letterman's famous skyline backdrop, desk, and several chairs have already gotten the boot. The show's marquee is also coming down next week. And there's no truth in the rumor that's being spread around. Now, I've had to get my lawyer to confirm this. That I won't be co-hosting Stephen's new show, or that I will be writing for the show. So you heard it here first. That is not true. I don't know who started that vicious rumor. Now, Dave said his final farewell on Wednesday, leaving us toasting his 33-year late-night career and celebrities sharing clips from their past appearances. He never asked me to come on, and I'm kind of disappointed at that. But, maybe Stephen will want me to come and be a guest. Now, the legendary host was joined by several of his famous friends as he took the stage for the last time and gave a sweet shout-out to his wife, Regina, and his son, Harry. It was a chill affair, and inside is sad, and Dave was there with his crew and staff and chatted with Steve Martin. Letterman also celebrated his big night with Tina Fey, Foo Fighters' Dave Grohl, but left after less than an hour. So what do you feel about this? Is it sad? Is it good that he's leaving to give somebody else a chance, or do you think we'll see him back?
Well, honestly, there were two comedians that I just never really liked, and one was Leno and the other was Letterman. I really did not enjoy either of their shows, and I didn't find them funny. I was so happy. I'll actually watch the Tonight Show occasionally now because I think Jimmy Fallon is great, and I'm hoping Colbert will do similar with the Late Show. I think out with the old, in with the new, so to speak. But I give David Letterman a lot of credit. He knew when to pack it in, and that is to his credit. He had a good run, a great show, good ratings, made a lot of people laugh, funny guy, and he just knew, hey, it's time to give somebody else a shot.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a good point, because I think you should always go out on a high, because then I think that you don't let kind of the show just kind of like crumble into obscurity, and people
who
stop
started
enjoying the show. Go on.
Do you know who started all this, Xander?
Who started what?
Pope
the rumor
Benedict.
about me taking over, or what?
No, please. They offered me the spot, but I had other commitments. The presidential dinner I'm going to next week at the White House.
Well, I turned them down before you, Lasako. Okay. Go on. Who started what?
Right. So
Absolutely.
I was saying Pope Benedict started this trend, the bow out gracefully trend. It all started with Pope Benedict. The Letterman is just following the Pope along, Even the new Pope's talking about resigning now. And, who knows, with a little luck, there's only a year left in his term. Maybe we might see Obama say, I'm bowing out gracefully.
Well, we can live in hope. I was actually on a TV show last night. TV show. You see where my head is. My head is back in television. My TV series doesn't start back until September, but I still want to be on the screen. Anyway, I was on a radio show last night. I was on the Real Side with Joe Messina, and we were talking about how many people kind of had kind of were blaming global warming on things, blaming things for global warming. One of the examples given was the fact that President Obama said that was the reason his daughter had asthma because of global warming. And so I was quite put on the spot last night. He was asking me what I thought about global warming, and I said, here's the thing. It was bloody freezing this winter, so that kind of makes me question it. But secondly, I'm not a scientist, and it's not something I've researched enough to form a valid opinion. So I'm kind of in the middle on it. But it just makes me laugh how much people want to disagree about the insignificant things, because it's not going to affect us in our lifetime, surely. So why aren't we looking at things like feeding the homeless and illness and sickness and curing AIDS and cancer and poverty and all of these things, rather than discussing global warming.
Yeah, I kind of I'm with you right there. I'm not a scientist, just like you said, but when you get ships that have to be rescued stuck on ice in Antarctica, it kind of makes it a little hard to buy. I remember that was right about the time that they changed the term global warming to climate change.
Yeah,
Notice
I thought
right
that was
after
quite
the ship
interesting
got
too.
stuck on the ice, they switched it because it was investigating global warming, and when the ship investigating global warming had to be rescued from the ice, the name the climate change.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I think it's one of those kind of bugbears for me that these people kind of feel that issues like that are far more important than maybe the things that I've mentioned. And to be honest, whatever party, if they got on their soapbox about those things, I would really champion that much more than I want to say inconsequential, but I don't know. Do you think that global warming is consequential in our lifetime? Do you think by the time we're seniors, Tony, that the world will have plunged into an ice age?
No, I don't, and I just don't. I honestly don't buy it, especially the way they're pushing it. That doesn't mean that it's not true. Once again, I mean, I know there's mixed reviews depending on who you talk to in the scientific community. The left will tell you that the right is in a cover-up and they're nuts, and the right will tell you there's no such thing as global warming. I just think it's one of those things that's like too controversial where it's like, if you're not a scientist, shut up about it,
Absolutely.
That's basically how I feel about it,
Iggy in the chat room is talking about global cooling in the 1970s. Obviously, that was a long time before our time, Tony, because we were born in the mid-'80s. And apparently they spread black ash all over the Arctic to melt the ice cap. Now, I don't personally remember that. Do you?
I don't, but it was before my time. That's very interesting, though. I tell you that. And they do talk a lot about weather modification. There's a lot of talk about that in government and scientific communities about controlling the weather. I mean, if you listen to the conspiracy theorists, they already have HARPA and things like that control the weather. But there's talk, even because of global warming, of spreading a net across the earth or some sort of cover. And when I hear crazy things like that, I just think, don't we have enough pollution? So you want to spread like a cloud over the earth to protect from the ozone and stuff? I mean, but once again, it's outside my level of knowledge, honestly. I really don't know all that much about global warming, but I completely agree with you. I do not think it's the issue of the century, especially, I believe Obama just said it was a high threat to our national security. Where did that one come from? To me, a threat to national security is ISIS on the Mexican border.
Well, didn't Joe Biden recently? Yes, actually, ISIS is more threatening. Did you see the other day that Joe Biden was saying that our troops need to prepare for global warming? I mean, how does your average person, never mind the troops, prepare for global warming? I really have no idea. What do we do? Do we shed our clothing? Do we buy more efficient cooling systems for the house? I mean, what do we do, Tony?
Well, the most petrifying thing to me about global warming, Xander, is how many more old men are going to show up on beaches with Speedos. I mean, that's terrifying.
That is very terrifying. Even the mere thought of it is kind of scary. But I have to share this with you, Tony. I don't know if you're watching the chat room, but Kathy in the chat room, who's been on the show several times, is saying that you have the same voice as Corey Feldman. Now, is that complimentary or not?
I don't know. That's a very good question. I guess it depends on her opinion of Corey Feldman. Wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Now that's
Corey
the one.
Feldman.
What was? Oh yeah, that's the one that's still alive. From the two Coreys, they were in all of those.
Wasn't he in Stand By Me?
Together.
I believe.
Yes, he was. Yes, that's right. And they had a reality show a few years ago. I was a big fan of the Coreys when I was growing up, and especially Corey Haim, who is no longer with us, sadly.
Yes.
Kathy says your voice is nice, Tony, and she is sure that you don't act like him. No, he definitely doesn't. He's not a womanizer, are you, Tony? Not anymore.
No. I've repented. I've become a Christian now, and now I will condemn to the death of me every womanizer out there because I am sanctified. I don't do it no more, so I'm going to viciously attack every individual that's a womanizer and take
Praise
the
Jesus.
cheap road and say it's in my past, and I have been cleansed.
Absolutely. So what have you brought along for us today, Tony? What's the story that you've brought for us? I just have to say before we do move on to that, good luck to David Letterman in his retirement. Cough, cough. I bet he'll be back very soon. And I look forward to seeing Stephen Colbert fill Letterman's gap. Don't go there, Tony. Tell us about your story for today, sir.
My story for today is about, and I am directly quoting an article, a brazenly illegal, unconstitutional act by a United States Air Force general, in which
surely not
the worldwide national security implications of such a Christian supremacist force unleashed throughout our armed service branches is staggeringly high, and it presents a, quote, clear and present danger to the very American way of life. And he is so unfit for his job. This is according to an organization, which will go unnamed, who is calling for the court-martial of a United States Air Force general. Now, would anybody like to guess what this man did to be so brazenly illegal, unconstitutional, theocratic, and threatening to national security and the American way of life itself?
I'm so lost to what they actually did wrong. What did they actually do wrong, Tony?
Well, what he did wrong, according to this essentially atheist group, was he spoke in uniform at a private Christian event. And he witnessed to that private Christian event. It was called the National Day of Prayer Task Force on May 7th, 2015. And he witnessed to them, gave credit in his life and his military career to Jesus, said that without God nothing's possible, and he owes his entire career to God. And he asked them to pray for himself and the men and women of the military. These were Christians, mind you, gathered at a private Christian convention.
So let me guess, was this because there might have been some Muslims or listening, and they might have been offended by his commentary, or what? I mean, I'm lost as to how in 2015 that your average American person can't share their beliefs, whatever they might be, and I guess
in
I
private
guess
with people of the same belief.
What?
Yes, and that is the issue, Xander. It was in uniform. Now, I mean, it does. In all fairness, there are two things I should point out to give the full story. The Christian Convention did broadcast his speech on GodTube, which is an evangelical Christian, basically soap opera box. So they broadcast his speech on GodTube, and also the United States Code of Military Conduct apparently nowadays forbids servicemen from taking a religious stance in uniform. So he did technically violate deliberately the Uniform Code of Military Conduct.
Wow.
However,
well, I think that's gone.
To say that it's a danger to national security, they are calling for his arrest and court-martial, and
who are they, though?
It's got national
who
security
Who are they that are calling for his arrest and saying that it's a breach of national security? Because I'm aghast that as a so-called Christian nation, we're not allowed. Our military personnel are not allowed to express their affirmations of faith while wearing that uniform of a so-called Christian nation.
And actually, they did more than that. They have said that it is a fundamentalist coup d'état of the military, and that it was it's the frightening face of viciously intolerant Christo-fascist religious extremism run amok in the United States Armed Forces. Where did they even get those words? Viciously intolerant Christo-fascist. Because the guy gave a testimony about what God was giving in his life to other Christians. It's crazy.
So was my point earlier about the concern about who that might offend? Because wasn't there a girl in school recently who had been suspended for 5 days for using the verse of John 3:16 in something she'd written? You know, the verse that says, "For God so loved the world, He gave His only Son," blah blah blah. She got suspended from school for 5 days. I mean, either we're free or we're not free. And if we are free as Americans, we should be able to affirm or deny anything that we decide that we want to do.
That is the thing. They're saying he violated the separation of church and state and the Establishment Clause. And I don't understand the hypocrisy. Here's the hypocrisy of it. They are quoting the Constitution saying it's a clear violation of separation of church and state, and they quote in their advancing of this man, they want him imprisoned and court-martialed for this, mind you, and they're saying he blatantly violated the Constitution's separation of church and state, that he violated it completely, and he violated the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. However, does not the First Amendment also say that the government cannot prohibit the free exercise of religion? So wouldn't a man be talking about God to other people of the same faith be considered the free exercise of religion?
It should be. Kathy, sorry, not Kathy. Iggy in the chat room just said something really interesting, referring to a memo from 2009 saying that we are no longer a Christian nation. Now I know we're a nation of mixed faith, but surely predominantly it's a Christian nation, isn't it? Still.
Well, you know what, Xander? It's a sidetrack, and it's beside the point, honestly. I don't give a dang if we're a pagan nation, if we're a Satanist nation, or we're a Christian nation. The First Amendment gives guaranteed protections of freedom of speech and freedom of religion. When you tell somebody that they cannot talk about their religious faith because it's offensive to other people, you are persecuting them, and you are violating the very of our nation. And they're doing the same thing with freedom of speech and words lately as well. If it offends somebody, it's illegal. It's a human rights issue.
Right, but
it's a human rights
constitutional issue. Are we not protected under the Constitution to be able to affirm our faith publicly? Surely we are.
Surely we are. Now, don't misunderstand me. If this man had given this speech to, say, in a public gathering of non-Christians or atheists and come out in uniform talking about Jesus, I'd be the first one in line condemning him, okay? I make a clear distinction. I
Right.
mean, and in all fairness, I am not for the theocracy branch of Christianity. There is a large group, and this man might even belong to it, but he was within his rights in this particular case, where you see what Paul, the national prayer gatherings, and even this particular event was to push public prayer. I disagree with that as a Christian. Let me rephrase that. Jesus Christ disagreed with that, and he taught against that. Jesus said, if you want to pray, go into your room and shut the door. Do not do it before men so that they'll see you and do it. So I disagree with a lot of these Christians trying to push their views on everybody, and I'm a Christian and I disagree with that.
I do too.
Because that's
totally
a political agenda. But
I would,
at the same time...
Go on.
No, go ahead, Xander.
No, I was just going to say I consider myself to be a Christian, but I don't consider sharing at a rate of proselytizing is appropriate. If somebody wants to talk to me about any aspect of what I believe, I'm more than happy to do that. But I think it's when some Christians, and I'm kind of emphasizing the word some, when they want to inflict their beliefs and lifestyles on others as being the only choice, that's when that concerns me, if I'm totally honest. Because if we have freedom, then the freedom is part of that freedom is to believe exactly what we want to believe, surely.
They are headed down really dangerous ground right now with a lot of these things, and it includes the freedom of speech. I'm trying to stay on topic with freedom of religious expression, but here's the thing. When you start telling Christians, you can say that they're not the majority anymore, that they've been oppressive, and that they're all a bunch of ignorant jerks. And I agree, the majority, well, we won't go there. Yeah, there's very valid criticisms of Christianity and the ignorance and the oppression by Christians of others. However, when you want to start telling Christians they cannot speak about their faith, they can't say homosexuality is wrong, or they can't try to convert somebody and tell somebody how good Jesus is and why they should believe, then you best be willing to tell every Buddhist, every Wiccan, every Hindu, every Muslim that very same thing, because they will come for you and your minority religion next.
Well, you know, in fairness, even if you take religion out of the equation, surely we need to be able to agree to disagree, because if we can't agree to disagree, what is the point? We've known each other for a long time, Tony. We're in the things that we don't agree on, but we don't hate each other for what we don't agree on. You know, we discuss it until we reach an understanding, even if that understanding is to agree to disagree, surely.
And that is how, and you know something, kind of think of it, I watched Stotzel's report last night, and he had a very interesting show on political correctness gone amok, and how you're forbidden to say all these words now in an academic setting and in a lot of businesses, and how they're basically censoring speech now. And this is the thing. Whatever happened to agreeing to disagree? To being able to look somebody in the eye and say, you're vile and disgusting. I disagree with that. That view is disgusting. I don't agree, but not whine and cry and call for the police to arrest the person because it's so offensive and you can't stand it and you're being so persecuted. Give me a break. It's freedom of expression. It's freedom to disagree. It's freedom of religion. To each their own, as long as they are not harming or oppressing another human being.
I couldn't agree with you more. And where the dilemma does come in is when they do try to oppress other human beings. I think it's unfortunate. I think it's unfortunate in America that a byproduct of freedom of speech is that some feel that gives them the right to tell others how to live. Because let's face it. I mean, I don't know the figures. I don't know how America is made up faith-wise, but I'm sure there are a good proportion of people that are unbelievers, that don't believe in God, never have, never will, and that is their prerogative to do so. And just because I choose to believe in God and to have faith, that shouldn't cancel out a non-believer's opinion, should it? Let's face it.
No, and there's a very fundamental aspect here that I think I might have neglected. A central tenet to Christianity. Now, unless you want to make Christianity illegal and say that Christianity is illegal, a central tenet of Christianity is, at least in the evangelical sense, conversion. It's been done by missionaries for centuries to make believers of non-believers, which requires you sharing your faith and talking about Jesus. So to forbid that to a man like that in the Air Force and glorifying God in his life is to forbid and make Christianity itself illegal. The central tenet to Christianity is Jesus and telling people about Jesus. And if you're going to do that, you bet to do it for every other faith too, and then I guess we won't have any religion whatsoever.
Absolutely. Well, I could talk about this all day, but sadly time has caught up with us, and we need to move on to our next topic, which is our phone-in, which today is on the death penalty, with reference to the fact that the death sentence had been handed down recently to convicted Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, elicited a mixed bag of reactions from praise to relief to even pity. Now, Sydney Cochran, who along with her mother Celeste suffered a severe leg injury in the April 2013 attack, tweeted after the verdict, Rebecca Gregory DiMartino, who had her left leg amputated after 17 operations, came face-to-face with Tsarnaev in court during his trial. Now, in March, she told NBC News that since the attack, she has found solace in inspiring other people through motivational speaking. She tweeted Friday that she was completely numb. Now, the twin bombings killed 3 people and injured more than 260 at the marathon finish line. Now, Tsarnaev will be the youngest person to be on death row at 21, and a lengthy appeals process will follow, as well as legal and technical complications with the lethal injection are just some of the factors that could prevent him from receiving the punishment the jury imposed. Now, few federal law death row prisoners ever get executed, and Tsarnaev will be formally sentenced by a judge this summer and is poised to be the first terrorist since the post-9/11 era to be executed, but the government has a track record of actually executing federal death row prisoners. Now, this Tony, kind of brings lots of things to light. Firstly, the opposition many have to the death penalty, and also one of the big things that I've seen on social media and some of the research you've been doing in the past couple of days is that some people actually believe that killing Tsarnaev for killing others is perpetuating this circular hate that possibly more things of this ilk could happen as a result of it. So let me ask you, first of all, Tony, where do you stand on the death penalty? And part 2 of the question is, what is your response to the verdict?
Well, my response, okay, so I'll deal with part 1 first. In general, I must say that I am against the death penalty. And I am an idealist. Because I am an idealist, and a lot of people will disagree with me on this. Let's take 9/11, for instance, and I was the President of the United States, and I knew that another plane was about to hit a major city, and I had an Air Force jet in range to shoot down the plane. And millions of people will die if I don't. But if I do shoot down the plane, I'm going to save millions of people in a city, but I will have killed all, say, 200 passengers on board. With me personally, I couldn't make the decision to shoot down that plane. And here's why. What makes the life of any one of those 200 people on board that plane worth more than the millions of lives down there in the city? Because each person on that plane has a mother or father. And now a lot of people don't think it that way, and they say the greater good. And how this applies to the death penalty is, I don't care if we execute millions of murderous, evil people and we save so many lives in the process. If one person, if we get it wrong with just one innocent person, that's one person too many to me, because every human being has dignity and worth and just as much, and you can't make it out to a numbers game. So that's why I'm generally against the death penalty. Even in things like we see this as absolute, there's plenty of conspiracy theories out there that say he didn't do it. You know, and I'm not saying that's the case at all. But, I mean, you can never be sure, and you can take back a prison sentence. We see it in the headlines all the time. 20, 50 years, innocent man gets out. You can't take back the death penalty.
Right. People, Kathy is saying she agrees with you in the chat room. And Iggy is saying, I don't think anyone who commits jihad should be sentenced to death, but hard labor with no parole. Now, before you give us your response, Tony, to the verdict, let me bring on our next guest who can come and weigh in on the topic. Our next guest, Sarah Boyles, is a comedian with a no-nonsense approach and will cut you to the quick. Not to be messed with, she deals with social media bullies with short thrift. And apart from that, she's a good friend of mine. So be careful, people. Let me welcome back to the show the one, the only, the fabulous Sarah Boyles. Hey, Sarah, how's it going?
Hi, Xander. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. You've joined us at a point in the show where we're just discussing, joy of joys, the death penalty. And Tony's going to tell us about his response to the verdict to the Boston bomber. And then we're going to come to you to find out your opinion on the death penalty. So, fire ahead, Tony. Tell us about your response to the verdict.
Well, actually, first of all, I shouldn't be a hypocrite, and I should tell you my view of this has changed. Years ago, I was for the death penalty, and I was a hang 'em high person. So let me just say that, a little disclosure there in all fairness. I've changed my view on this issue. But I think it's especially tragic because I understand they want to respect the families, but they did not respect all the families. There were several families, from reading the news coverage, who begged the federal government not to pursue the death penalty, and they did not want him to be executed. So how can you trample on the wishes of the very victims themselves who did not want this? My sense of wanting, an eye for an eye kicks in, of course, like when we got bin Laden. Oh, yeah, fry him, kill him, hang him high, absolutely, But that's emotional. Right. And, I mean, they should have respected the victims' wishes, at least.
But aren't all of these responses emotional? Surely all of these responses are emotional, because if we actually took the emotion out of it, well, I'm not sure how we could take the emotion out of it. Let me come to Sarah. Sarah, let me ask you, first of all, are you for the death penalty? And did you kind of feel that the Boston bomber, Joe Arseniev, got what he deserved?
Well, I've always been anti-death penalty. I guess it is an emotional thing, and I suppose I've always tried to take the emotional aspect out of the decision. Having said that, it would be hard for me not to want to kill someone who hurt my child. I do get that. But I feel, if we giving him the death penalty, of course, makes him a martyr immediately.
Right.
And also, if, like Tony said, if some of the family didn't want the death penalty for him, well, then surely they should have been listened to as equally as the others. I've never agreed with the death penalty. I feel like life imprisont's good enough. Plus, didn't we shoot him, to pieces, and he somehow survived anyway? I mean,
Right.
he's already kind of went through hell. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's barbaric. I think it's premeditated murder. My town is going to hate me even more after I say this, but I don't agree with the death penalty.
Wait, how could your town hate you any more than they already do,
right.
Sarah? I mean, I just have to see your. I mean that respectfully because you know I love you. I mean, I just have to look at your Twitter, your Facebook feed to see some of the comments from some of the inbreeds that inhabit your town with you. To see kind of what kind of level of response to that. And I have to say you do deal with that like marvelously. By the way, don't vote for Sarah in the election.
It's too late.
Just happened. That's kind of that's hilarious. So I just want to give out the number for anyone who wants to weigh in on this or any other topic, 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Give us a call. Tell us what you think. Are you in favor of the death penalty? Do you think that the Boston bomber, I can't say his name again because it's a mouthful, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev got what he deserved? Do you think the people of Salem, Illinois are unfair to Sarah Boyles? What do you think? Call us on 347-884-9061. Now, all joking aside, I put some stuff on Facebook this week because I knew we would be doing this section on the show. Now, I'm very torn about the death penalty. Now, before I moved back to the United States, I was totally against it. When I came back and they had this 3 strikes and you're out thing, the kind of intellectual part of my brain saw that was possibly acceptable, because if people live in society and can't work within its framework or even kind of try to, why should they be allowed to live? But then the humanitarian side of me says I really can't hold truck with people being killed. But people have already mentioned in the chat room that the response to this is kind of similar to abortion. How can you be anti-abortion but pro death penalty? So it's a real dichotomy for me of responses. But unlike Sarah said, someone killed someone I love, my first response, my human response, would be kill him. Let me do it. Let me flick the switch. Let me give him that injection. Let me shoot them in the head. But then the intellectual side of my brain kicks in, and the humanitarian to say that that's not the case. Kathy just said in the chat room that she's pro-choice and against the death penalty. So am I. There you go.
That's exactly what I am.
And this is the thing about part of the message of this show is that we don't all have to agree, and we don't all have to believe the same things, unless you live in Salem, Illinois, that is.
You have to believe, yeah.
Yeah, and don't call me or write to me. I don't care what you think. I really don't. So I just wonder, do you feel, obviously this guy is going to be on death row forever, and there is a school of thought that they were scapegoated, and apparently that they weren't even there. I mean, I'm always willing to listen to a good conspiracy theory, but let's start with you, Tony. Do you think this is the case? Is it possible this is a conspiracy theory? Is it possible that this has been made up in order to scapegoat these guys? Tony?
That was for Tony, right?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, you were asking me, Xander. I'm sorry.
No, I was asking Ronald McDonald, who's appeared in the corner with a pizza. Yes, dear, I was asking you.
Well, I was busy in the corner doing stuff with Ronald. Never mind. Okay.
Okay, let's not go there. It's not that kind of show today. Go on, fire away.
Okay. Well, honestly, the conspiracy theorist part of me actually wondered in a little bit of disgust, why did they bother to have a trial? If you want to be fair about something like this, I mean, perhaps and this is where I blame the President of the United States, whether it was France or otherwise or with ISIS right now. If we're going to fight terrorism, let's have an international force and an international tribunal, and let's have all the nations of the world for the first time get together and say, this is a United Nations thing. We each have a section of our armies to deal with it, a rapid reaction force for terrorism across the world. We're going to have a terrorism worldwide court and do it that way because I really don't think he got – was there any doubt that he was going to be convicted? And if the man was innocent, was there any shot of it? I mean, it was we criticize show trials overseas, but that's exactly. And I am not defending the man, especially if he committed the act. What I'm saying is,
justice.
No.
Yeah.
Right. So
exactly.
Guilty or not guilty, or frame up, Sarah. What say you?
Oh, I do. Well, you know, I recently had to read up on this because I'm so behind on everything. I do feel like, well, you know, his brother died in the shootout or whatever, and I do believe that I'm not going to even try to say his name, just to be fair. I do feel like he probably did it. I'm sorry but I feel like he might have been coerced like he said he was by his older brother. I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I don't claim to know.
Yeah, but that doesn't work after kindergarten, Sarah. After kindergarten, you can't say, my brother made me do it. I mean, it doesn't.
You don't know my brother, Xander.
Yeah, I've heard about your brother, you know. Do it or I'll beat you. I mean, I
know it doesn't. I think some people are easily brainwashed, too, though. I do. I mean, look at my town. They believe anything they're told, like literally without even checking up on it or anything. I see brainwashed people every day in my town. Hardcore Christians, which I'm a Christian too. Huh?
Careful, we'll have the Salem Bitches Association on the
phone. I'm so used to them. It's fine. They can come over and hang out with me. I don't care anymore. But I mean, really. And plus they don't know how to spell or probably dial a phone, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
No, it's very true.
Just check her feed on Facebook, Tony. It's absolutely true. They actually think her name is Starboy Les. They really do. That's why you didn't get the votes, because they were looking for Starboy Les on the ballot. But sorry, anyway, I digress. Carry on, Sarah.
I totally forgot what I started thinking of Salem and how. Brainwashing. I think that's where I was at. It is possible. I know that, like in my town.
First of all, you got to have a brain to get it washed, though. You realize that, don't you?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think I'm not. The guy was wrong, okay? Just like Jodi Arias was wrong for killing her boyfriend 3 different ways, but we didn't give her the death penalty because she was a white woman. I'm sorry to say that, but I mean, it's the truth. She didn't get the death penalty. I knew she wasn't going to because she was attractive, but she killed the guy by stabbing him, shooting him, and decapitating him. I mean, come on. Exactly. That's a very hands-on personal death.
Yeah, you can't say that was accidental, can you? I mean, you know, come on.
No, you can't.
I'm kind of glad I wasn't on the jury of this Boston bombing trial, because I think it's a shame, because I think the guy is quite cute, and that would have influenced me. I would have had to kind of like stay. I would have had to stay on the fact, because there's this young semi-attractive Turkish or Middle Eastern or wherever, he's Turkish or something guy, and he's 21. And
that's what I was getting ready to say. 21's so young. I mean, your brain isn't even fully developed till you're 25 years old, they're discovering.
Right.
So,
exactly.
I mean, and I'm not making excuses for him. I'm really not.
No.
I mean, I don't like terrorists.
I totally see your
Xander.
point. I don't like terrorists either. I totally see your point, Sarah. And I do think he was influenced, but it's unfortunate that he will still be held accountable, even though he was innocent, even though
Xander.
he was
coerced.
Coerced.
Yeah.
Innocent.
What Tony?
Go on.
Xander, if I might just chime in here on a related topic, and I like to bring out the best in the country sometimes too, because we spend so much time talking about all the idiots out there. But there was the jury trial recently, and here's a perfect example of what I was saying. One life is not enough. And this juror is hated right now by a lot of people. It was the trial of the child molester from the 70s in New York. Supposedly it was one of the first milk carton children, and he admitted to it.
Oh, yeah.
But his lawyers said he was mentally ill, and the jury was going to hang him high. All 11 members of that jury guilty based on the confession. And the family's outraged, and that poor juror can't go out in public because he held out. He was the one vote that said, I'm not sure and I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to say guilty. There's just not enough to know for sure.
Well,
and
yeah,
boy, was
that's
the
awesome.
family pissed, and the jury was pissed, and now they're going to try it again. And this man's like one of the most hated people. To me, that's a truly courageous act.
That's a hero.
Of one man
that's someone
standing
who's
up. That's a hero.
Yeah. Oh, I agree completely.
Absolutely.
There's still some really cool people out there. I mean, there's some people that are thinking for themselves, and that's awesome.
And don't you
we
think
need
that's
more of
what
that.
you need on a jury? That's exactly what you need on a jury, because
Yeah, they
unfortunately,
become
in
one
some
organism, and that's
cases,
not good.
Justice is not justice. And I totally see that, that a jury of 12 good men / women and true are not always going to get it right, because let's face it, hands up, how many people can actually leave their bias at the door? And
Yeah.
don't tell me you don't have a bias, because they reckon that everyone has a bias, whether they don't like tall people, short people, fat people,
Exactly.
thin people, black people, white people,
And what if
gay
you're
people,
hungry?
straight people.
I might be cranky, and I want to get out of
Yeah.
there. I mean, there's people
please.
like that.
I might eat the other the other jurors, if I'm hungry. I just think I don't know how it would work better, but I definitely think the judiciary needs a good shakeup, especially when people like the asshole that killed Trayvon Martin, who's in trouble again, and they gave him his gun
Oh my
back,
gosh.
and he shot other people. They let him go. I mean, the Florida judiciary are clearly on drugs. They
It's
are
Florida,
clearly,
I know.
They pay them. They must pay them with
That's
narcotics.
my state.
The
That's
narcotics that they confiscate, they must give them to the Florida judiciary. Well, I'm sure you would agree with me, Tony, just from the conversations we've had, that the Florida judiciary are just lunatics.
Xander, I would like to create a campaign. You know, the Disney commercials come to Disney World. I want to create a come to Florida commercial. We have the flesh-eating man from Miami. We have the baby killer that got away with it. And we have Zimmerman. And there's some other ones out there that haven't even made the national media that we know about, I assure you.
Right.
Yeah, we can go find them.
In this state. And I'm from New York, so I take offense when people talk to me. No, I'm from New York, and I take offense down here when people start talking about the evil New Yorkers or the bad New Yorkers. I'm like, in New York, two people will fist fight and curse each other out, and it's over. You guys do some wacky, crazy things down here.
What about the woman Jody? No, not Jody. The woman who was tried for they found her child dead, and
Casey
still
Anthony?
they've not. Casey
Casey,
Anthony.
thank you. I couldn't think of her name. Casey Anthony. That's the one I was
judicial
referring
atrocity.
to.
How did she get away
how
with it?
disgusting is that? Why would
I know, that's exactly.
My family, I don't have any children myself, but I know anybody with children knows where their 5-year-old or however old the kid was, and they know where they are 24 hours a day, every second of the day. So for that woman to have walked away from that trial without, because whether she did it or not, she was guilty. You have to look
She was
out
a
for your
neglectful
kid.
parent. She was a very neglectful parent by far.
Yeah.
Well,
whether she did it or not.
They overshot it. They overshot it, and that's
They did.
Thanks to our
They
attorney
overcharged.
General Pam Bondi did it twice. She did it with Zimmerman too. She probably could have got manslaughter, but she had a grandstand and she screwed up both cases. But actually, I don't know that Pam Bondi was involved in the Casey Anthony case, so I should correct. But the prosecutors in both cases overstepped, and I think we're going to see that in Baltimore, by the way. I think we're going to see the same outcome in Baltimore, overstepping and overcharging.
I want to talk about Baltimore, but just before we move on, I want to ask you both this. Do you think the result of either the Trayvon Martin trial, would that have been different if Trayvon had been a white guy? And do you think that the outcome of this Tsarnaev Boston bombing would have been different if he were right? Do you think color influences the decisions of juries? Skin color, obviously.
You can go first, Tony.
Okay, well, I'm so glad you asked, Xander, because in the past 24 hours, literally, I have changed my opinion. In the past 24 hours. And what changed my opinion, I used to scream, there's no such thing as white privilege, it's not true. And I still kind of lean towards that. I don't think it's a matter of white privilege so much as socioeconomic privilege, which is by default white privilege. However, in the past 24 hours, when I'm watching Fox News and they break in the last 2 minutes of Bill O'Reilly to talk about the mansion double murder in D.C., where 3 people were killed in the mansion and they caught the guy, and then I changed to CNN and it was the same exact special report, and that's been all over the news. And I had to take a step back and think about all the triple murders locally here that I know about that don't make national news. What was so important? Because it was a rich white, well, actually, I don't know that it was a white family. I'm assuming it was a white family. I should say I'm assuming. But the point of it is,
but rich has something to do with it too. Rich
had something to do with it. You don't see triple murders of poor people making the national news with special reports.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly.
I'm
trying to get on this link. I'm sorry. I wanted to answer the question with this because I have the actual statistics in front of me. But they were.
Fire away.
Okay, well, you asked about the jurors. Okay, I'm just going to ignore that question and pretend you asked me something else. Okay, so
Which
as far
is so
as
unlike you, Sarah.
Oh, so unlike me, yeah. Okay, so as far as death penalties go, 77% of people that are sentenced to death since 1977 are people that did crimes against white people.
Right.
Okay, although black people make up black victims make up a much larger percentage. So we how would I put that in the way I want to say it? We're harsher whenever we punish people if they have hurt a white person than we are if they've hurt a black person. Killed them, of course. I'm saying hurt. I'm sorry. Very tired. But that's what I'm saying. I also don't agree exactly with a white privilege, but I do think that there's a favoritism slightly. I don't know.
Right.
Which doesn't mean white privilege, because I know I work my ass off.
I think the word you're looking for is bias, Sarah.
That's a good word. Do
bias.
that. Yeah, that one.
I mean, go for it. Don't be afraid on this show. I definitely
would agree
tired. That there appears to be a definite bias where color is concerned. A few years ago, I was in the city and I was walking to the subway with a friend of mine who happened to be black, and he said to me, "Xander, you really don't get it, what it's like being black and living in this city, because everything that's on the TV about black people shows the negative side. You never see that this black guy rescued someone from a building or stopped a robbery or any of these things." He said, "Let me show you something now." He crossed the road, and white women seemed to be afraid of him, and this was a gay guy.
So, no, that's a real thing.
And this happened, and I would not have believed it until he said to me that people are,
afraid of
are discriminate because unfortunately the level of imagery we're given about your average black person is that they're going to rape you, molest you, mug you, steal from you, or shoot you. Or
at the very least,
that is
they're
not
a thug.
fair.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
You know, Xander, I actually was put in my place within the past few weeks by a very educated black gentleman who's a Mason. And I freely admit I was on my self-righteous high white moral horse, okay? And I was he had used the word. Hopefully, I can use it on your show without getting booted off. He used the word nigger to describe another black man, and I quickly pointed out my white persecution, and I said, it's not. I agree with you, the distinction, but it's sad in today's society. You can get away with that, but if I said the exact same thing which you admit is true, I'd be a racist. That's not right. Then I went on, and he held his tongue, but it bothered him to talk about how I was around a bunch of police officers and stood up to them and asked them what was going on, and they threatened to arrest me, but they didn't, and I backed down, but I stood up for myself. He waited till I told that story a little bit later in the conversation, and he said, remember what you said earlier, Tony, about you not being able to get away with that? I said, yeah. And I didn't know what he was going to say. He said, well, you know what? That's exactly how I felt when you told that story about those police. You don't know what it's like to be a black man in America. If I did that very same thing and went up to a bunch of armed police officers and questioned what they were doing in my neighborhood, I'd be thrown in the back of a squad car, probably beaten and arrested.
That's true. I mean...
And it's true, yeah. He had me dead to rights. I mean, he had me, and it really gave me a new understanding. Yes.
I have to really interject there, though, because there's a parallel here that I really wish to expose. Like we should not be generalizing that all black people behave a certain way. By the same token, we should not be generalizing that all police officers are racist.
That's
or
very
will
true
treat you
too.
Differently.
Absolutely.
And for me, I have lots of friends that are cops, and I have police officers in my family. And here's the thing for me: if I was ever I would never be in their company, and hear them using the N-word or being discriminatory about anybody, apart from maybe me calling me a fat fag, but that's funny, amongst friends. But so the point I'm making is the parallel here is the whilst I don't want people, I don't want to hear people discriminating against ethnic minorities. The same has to be applied to the way that we shouldn't be generalizing about the police either.
Can I interject something?
You can.
Of course
indeed.
I can. Okay, whenever I ran for mayor, I had several death threats, and the cops came to my house. And the cops that knew me and liked me were super nice, and they were on my side, and they helped me out. Well, the cops that knew they didn't want me as mayor treated me like shit. Well, that's kind of how I think we are generalizing whenever we talk about, saying cops would always pull over black people or arrest them. No, it's not really like that. It's just the small-minded ones. We really need to just group them into one thing, small-minded. I mean, that's all. There's cops that are open-minded, and they're very good at their job, and they can put away their feelings, and then there's some that can't, just like everybody, It's really the main problem right now is small-mindedness. We are not socially progressing the way we should. We are, it's fine.
Go ahead. Talking about this
We're digressing.
About the labeling.
Exactly.
We are, but that's that's a talk show for you. Weren't you talking about this week your kind of concerns about the effects of people labeling?
I'm so sick of it.
And I think that's kind of quite apt with what we're talking about. Everybody tends to generalize, and I'm always correcting people on Facebook when they say Republicans are this or Democrats are that. I put asterisk some, and they're like, "What do you mean some?" I'm like, because some Republicans are this, and some Democrats are that, and some black people are this, and some gay people are that. Not all. So just stop damn generalizing.
Yeah, I'm so sick of libtard and conservatard. I don't think that's getting us anywhere. I mean, it's really not. I get called libtard so often. These people don't even realize that I'm not Democratic or Republican. I'm bipartisan. I'm whatever I think's best for my country or for my county or my city.
Bipartisan, does that mean you like men and women?
Yes, that, and I vote both ways. I vote and go both ways. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Well, I'm not a conservative, but I don't want to be referred to as a liberal either. I'm
who cares what someone calls you, though? that makes them small-minded. If anyone calls me a liberal or a conservative, I just think, well, they just generalized. And I'll tell them, you're wrong. You have no idea what I am.
Right.
I'm a Christian left if I'm anything.
Go on, Tony.
Well, this is the basic problem in America right now, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier, honestly, about the intolerance where you're not allowed to speak, hold a different view, a different religion, or anything anymore, and this is the basic problem, the labels. I get sick of apologizing for Christians, and I'm a Christian. You know, I get sick of being told by Christians that I'm not a Christian because I'm gay, and I get sick of apologizing for all the ignorant
You're
Christians
gay?
out there, but they just lump everybody together. Oh my gosh, Xander,
I'm sorry. I must apologize. I must apologize to our listeners because it's disgusting having a gay person hosting a show. It doesn't usually happen, and I'll try and make sure it doesn't happen in the future. Time is catching up with us, but I just want to give a little bit of time to Sarah. I want to ask you about your recent experiences about performing with Trevor Moore. I want you to tell us a bit about that, and I'm sure it was a dream come true. If not for him,
it was a
definitely
dream come true
for you.
Well, there's, he performed in Nashville, Tennessee, which is about a 6-hour drive from where I'm at. But he doesn't, he lives in L.A., so he doesn't come to this area too often. And, I'd met him on Twitter a while ago. We became good friends. We started following each other. He was, someone who would talk to Isaac and be nice to him just like you are. Isaac's my bullied son, of course. And, I said, if I make that trip, can I hang out with you? And he was like, yeah, definitely. So we made the trip. They let me perform a skit with them on stage, which was a lot of fun. I got to also perform with Sam Brown and Darren Trumeter. They're also on the show with Trevor Moore. It's The Whitest Kid You Know is their show. And, it was a lot of fun. We went to the bars afterwards, and we partied until like 3 in the morning, and I ended up falling asleep sitting up at a bar, and everybody told me I had to go home. I don't know. It was a lot of fun.
And do you feel it's kind of spurred you on to do more live stuff? Because I know that a lot of what you've done has been more writing for TV shows, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Do you want to do more live stuff or
well,
I was
due to do a show June 6th, about 15-20 minutes from where I live in Centralia. And it was some local guys and some St. Louis, Missouri guys who get together and they do some comedy, and they asked me to be their special guest. Well, that got people in the area kind of excited, so I had a pretty big response. People were wanting to go really bad, and the males that were involved didn't appreciate the attention I got and all the things my fans were saying, so they kicked me off the show.
I think you need to move to a bigger city, Sarah. I really do.
I do, too.
Seeing the hick response that you get from some people, but there is a humorous and comedic element to the level of response you get. I mean, I'm not going to mention names for fear of being sued, but mostly because I can't remember the guy's name. But the guy that was attacking you the other week and was saying how unpatriotic you were to Salem, Illinois, and he wasn't going to vote for you, even though the election was like months ago. I mean,
I know. I forget his name too.
Where do they dig them up? You know?
I know. I was like, well, you're about a month late on not voting for me since I'm, the election's over and you have a new mayor already. I don't know. Yeah, I was happy to tell him that. The response I get is what I expected. I tried to wait. If anything, though, I did make the younger generation realize how much of a shithole this is, and then they need to get out. If they want to do anything in life,
absolutely,
get out. If they want to be gay, get out. I mean, if you want to, because they will persecute you here harshly. And if you are Muslim, Salem, Illinois, home of William Jennings Bryan and also mayonnaise jars. That's what we're known for.
What a claim to fame. What a claim to fame. But you are working on some more live dates then, I take it.
I'm trying. I mean, again, running for mayor was probably the worst thing I did. I mean, it was the best
I disagree. I really disagree.
Well, it made that I made a Southern Illinois video that made it viral. I mean, like, it's all over now.
I saw that.
Almost 50,000 views now.
Where the hell is part 1? You did part 2.
Oh, it's shitty. Don't even worry about it. It's not even good. It's on YouTube, but it's not even good. Like, I wasn't as mean on that one.
Is it true that meth is the official sponsor of north of Salem?
Oh, it's everywhere in Southern Illinois. We have great meth. I don't want to be disrespectful to our meth cookers. They're really good at what they do, but it's destroying lives here. We have so many heroin overdoses, and K2, the synthetic pot. So many people are having to go to our emergency rooms now because their hearts are stopping. I mean, this is, and nobody wanted to listen to me when I said, we need a mayor that cares about the youth. Nobody gave a shit about the youth. Both the guys I was running against had no plans for the youth. And, I mean, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just being really honest, and I'm sure it's going to piss them off. But both of the men I ran against, one of them was really kick-ass, Joe. He was awesome, and he was funny. The other guy, our mayor, he's really cool, too, because I have to say that. But there's no youth programs. He's a Boy Scout leader, so I'm sure, I don't know, he does that.
Is it true he lights his cigarettes by rubbing 2 Boy Scouts together? No, don't answer that because we'll get sued.
Oh, my
God.
That has allegedly. That has brought us to the end of the show. Sarah, we've gone way over time. Tell people where they can find you on social media.
You can find me on Facebook, and, if you're an asshole, I'll block you. But definitely find me and see if I like you. And then Twitter, it's @Boyles_S.
Absolutely. All of Sarah's details are on the Xandermonium page for the radio. That's www.xandergibb.com/radio. My brain went blank there. So all of Sarah's details are there, including her inside leg measurement and her mom's maiden name. So get yourself along there and go and follow Sarah. But for now, thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah, and we hope you will join us again soon. That's comedian Sarah Boyles. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Xander.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye-bye.
And, of course, bye-bye, Sarah. Take care. And, of course, thanks to Tony Lusacco, who has been standing in today for Tyhe, who will be back with us next week. Tell people where they can find you, Tony.
Well, you can find me on the mothership that's coming down to Earth, and it's going to be a great gathering for all the ET. No. You can find me on the full story on
in Florida.
You can find me on the full story 2014 on Twitter if I'm ever on Twitter, working on that. You can find me on YouTube at the full story, and you can find me on Facebook. That's your best bet, giving my rants and my political commentary on the full story.
Absolutely. Well, thank you once again for stepping in to the bridge to take Tyhe's place today. And Tony will be back with us hopefully in a couple of weeks with another Lusacco report. So thanks for joining us today, Tony, and give our love to Kiko.
Thanks for having me, Xander. Take care.
Thanks, Tony. Take care. Bye-bye. Well, that is a wrap. That was Xandermonium for this week. I will be back next week with Tyhe Paul Egar. Thanks for everyone who joined us. Thanks to everyone in the chat room. Thanks to Kathy. Thanks to Joe. Thanks to Iggy. Thanks to all of the guests. Thanks to Sarah Boyles, comedian, for joining us today. And we hope you will make sure you follow them on social media. And make sure you follow me too, Xander Gibb. So what we're going to play out with today, let's play out with this by me. Thank you all. I love you all. And I will speak to you all very soon. Bye-bye.
Aha, you're my ideal one.